Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Agent Spotlight, the first of 2026. And I'm glad to be joined here by, really, I call him Mr. Consistent, Robbie Gonzalez. He has been nominated as a top producer in Symmetry, which means that he's submitted 20K at least 2 months in a row. He's going for Elite Producer. And this month he is at 40K already in submits and hopefully get to 50K. This is the 27th of January. So hopefully by the end of the month, we're at 50K. I'm really excited to have Robbie on here because you said not so long ago that Razor Ridge really changed things for you. And I wanted to delve into that a bit more. So before we go into that, it'll be helpful for you to introduce yourself, tell people who you are, how long you've been in the business, and so people can just get an understanding of where you are.
Yeah. So I'm Robbie Gonzalez. I live in the Hilton Head area. I'm in Bluffton, South Carolina, and I haven't been in this industry very long. I had my first try with life insurance back in, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018, and it was a really, really rough experience for me, anyway. And
Yeah.
I remember telling my wife that I was never ever going to get into insurance again. So the fact that last year in March, I had to sit her down and have a conversation and say, so I said I was never, ever going to do life insurance again. I have some news. So I'm glad I did. I'm glad I'm back, and things are very different this time around. But it's been March of last year. I went really full time July of last year.
Perfect. What made you come back?
Yeah, no, disgruntled by it all is I didn't feel like I had a lot of support. I also felt like everyone seemed to be out for themselves. So what really got me wanting to try this again was that I was convinced that the culture that I was going to experience now with this group, with this agency, was going to be very different. And that there was a lot more care in the training and the help and the support and resources, which was where
Yeah,
leads come in.
perfect.
So yeah, back then I have no idea how I'd have gotten more business. I was really just tailing somebody and hoping for the best. So it's a much better setup right now, what I
That's
have.
perfect. So how did you come about finding? Was it a different IMO?
Yeah, no, definitely, different IMO. Yeah, different IMO. Yeah, what I'm doing here is totally different. Symmetry is amazing. The culture here in Symmetry is what really sold me, and I believed it because I believed the gentleman I spoke with. But it wasn't long until I started seeing how true it was. And being around the right people, being in a group of people that are helping each other out, that actually care about one another, it's a world of difference. World of difference.
It sounds like it's been a complete change, which not only has helped you to get to the numbers, which we'll discuss later, but it has given you the confidence to do it full time. So do it full time is, it's no small feat. So what were you doing before the life insurance second time round biz?
Yeah. So right during the pandemic, I was laid off from my job. I worked for a factory. We developed things for our clients and produced them in house. And because I was laid off, I was really looking for work that I could do from home because my wife was sick and she wasn't getting better. And I figured going out during COVID times, I could probably get her sick again or get her more sick. And I just didn't want to do
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it took me 9 months to finally land a job in sales where I was basically doing what we're doing here, just talking remotely, talking on Zoom with individuals and selling programs. But I got some pretty good sales training on how to do it right. The company was growing big. I got to a point where I was selling $1,000 coaching packages. So I mean, it was a big deal, but it was B2B. It was B2B. I'm speaking to business owners. And then that kind of progressed to me moving into a few other jobs. Again, the same thing, selling either over Zoom or over the phone. For the most part, speaking to business owners. Um, right before I got into this, right before I working in insurance sales, I was actually selling services for help new business owners get leads. So yeah, so the company I worked for does something similar to what Razor Ridge does. They help do advertising for HVAC companies.
Really? Okay, cool. Yeah, not in the same
Yeah,
industry.
completely different industry. Yeah, completely different
Yeah,
industry.
that's like
Yeah.
competition.
No, 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 no. They only work with HVAC. Yeah.
No, do you know what is good about that as a history? I know many people may not have the same history, but clearly you've come from a sales background, high ticket sales, and most of the different types of sales. And so I imagine the jump from going from remote sales to life insurance sales wasn't really much of a jump. It's just more of a how do I then approach the individuals for life insurance rather than a business for this specific marketing product or coaching product, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things that kind of felt like it was a little bit of a shoe in for me. Like, okay, so you're already doing this, right? So back before when I was trying to do life insurance, I didn't have a whole lot of background in sales.
Yeah.
I might, because I have owned and ran a couple of businesses in the past, but that might have even been before that. I don't remember the time period. So, learning how to be an entrepreneur, understanding the parts and pieces that are involved there, the mental shifts that happen. And then, of course, sales in general, just not only having good sales training, but actually having practice at sales makes a huge difference. So,
Yes.
basically, I had 5 years of sales back to back doing this over Zoom or over the phone, which definitely made it feel much more comfortable to get into selling over the phone, for life insurance. But there were definitely a lot of things that I didn't know, challenges that I didn't know I was going to come against. And so that's where you learn as you go. Like no matter what comes up, you still have to figure out ways to overcome those hurdles.
Of course. And I guess that also helps having a good team, like you said at the start, the stuff that you weren't getting before, you're now getting the training, you're now getting the support to help guide you in the right way. So those hurdles and challenges don't last for a long time. And you can tell because we'll go into this now, your numbers, and I'm sure people know who you are now. You're on the national leaderboard or internal leaderboards very consistently. So talk to people about, your journey from when you started. I assume you weren't getting razor leads before to obviously starting razor leads and then where you are currently now in terms of submits.
Yeah. So I actually had just pulled up the numbers here so that I can be very accurate in what I say. I went full time. Like I left behind the other job that I was doing in sales around, I think it was June that I was really cutting it off. And honestly, I have to credit my wife there. She recognized that I was having a really hard time trying to juggle everything. And she said, if you're really trying to make insurance work for you, you need to do it 100%. You can't really manage this other job and trying to learn something new and buy leads and keep track of this and that. And she was right. So I left it behind, even though I felt very uncomfortable because I wasn't making enough in insurance to pay the bills.
Leap of faith.
Yeah, it was a big leap of faith. And, the first month that June I have right in front of me was $8,900 in submitted business. That wasn't enough to pay all my bills because not all of the business that I submitted was going to get placed. And, the percentages and, you do all the math and it's like, okay, I can barely make my rent. But July was 16,000 in submitted business. August was 32,000. So somehow I didn't even pay attention. I was doubling,
You're double every single. What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Unreal.
But September, there was a drawback. I went to $19,000 in submitted business, and then October is when I started getting Razor Ridge leads, and that was 42,000 submit month, and November was 41,000 submit. So there was a big shift when I was really focusing on not just doing as many dials as I could, which that was a big deal, right? Making sure that no matter how old my leads were, no matter where I was getting my leads from, making sure that I'm doing the work, right? Dialing, connecting with people, setting appointments, doing all those things. But there was something pretty spectacular that happened when I was urged by my agency owner, Sean. He had said, listen, you really, we're all jumping in this. You definitely need to get Razor Ridge leads. You need to at least give it a shot, see how it goes. Start with 10, start with 15, but just get the ball rolling. And my first 2 weeks, I can't really remember exactly, but I know it was in October. One of those for whatever reason, the way that things just end up, the 5 leads that dropped, I was able to close a deal with every single one of them. So it was like back to back to back. It was like between Sunday night and Monday, I had already submitted over $10,000 in business, and I was like, this is nuts, Uh,
What an entrance. Wow. Is it like
it
this
was
all?
it was a great way for me to feel like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting more of these leads. But to keep things fair and to keep things realistic, things are always going to go up and down. I love the analogy of a stack of cards, a deck of cards. There's 4 aces in there. Are they all at the top? Are they in the middle? Are they spread across all? You don't know. You're just flipping one card at a time. And so it was very helpful for me, having all 4 aces right at the top when I made a few sales. But realistically speaking, as from a business owner standpoint, I know that by placing my orders with Razor Ridge leads, I am going to get results, and the results are going to keep me in a place where I can keep investing in my business and
Mhm.
keep making sales. So no matter what kind of experiences you're going to have, these are human beings. A lead is not just a ticket to money. A lead is a person that you're going to talk to. That person might be a lot more sick than what they thought or what you were hoping for. That person might be in between jobs. We all know what that means, right? But for the most part, they're just people. And if we can help them, if we can really support them, if we can protect their family, we want to. But it's not going to happen on every call, on every lead. Not everything's, and they're not always going to respond to the text messages, right? It's just part of it. So
Yeah.
I try
No,
to keep it. I try to keep it real inside my head.
no, I love that. I love that. And that kind of brings me back to a point I made earlier where you mentioned to me, Razor Ridge really changed my business. I actually wasn't really sure what you meant by that. So now I've got the numbers, like that's a big change. But what gave you the confidence with the leads? Obviously, that's a great week, one order. But you've been ordering consistently since October every week without fail, right? Why did you become so confident that if you just kept the consistency with what we were doing, that you were able to reach, the two 40K months, another 40K month this week, this month, sorry, potentially 50K. So that's what we're doing in October, but only December where it didn't happen and you're back here again in January. So what made you have that confidence?
Yeah, December was still a big month. It just wasn't 40K. What gave me that confidence was seeing, just the proof, right? Seeing that it's happened before. I
Yeah.
will say that there have been weeks where I placed my order late or I've forgotten to place an order or whatever, or just trying to call my older leads. And it is a pipeline business, right? No
Yeah.
matter what, even though I had that great, 5 sales in a row, it is still a pipeline business. You still have to go back and dial those leads that you bought last week and the week before and the week before that. And you will get them to answer the phone and, oh yeah, I didn't recognize the number, or all kinds of things come up, or I was really busy, or my wife got sick and so I haven't been able to respond to you. That does happen, and you need those sales. You cannot build your business off of just the fresh sales that you make when the leads first drop.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have, out of 10 leads, you're probably going to have 1 or 2 sales that are just kind of like right
Yeah.
there. We got them on the phone, we made the sale, it's easy.
Yeah.
But that's not going to build your business.
Hmm.
You have to keep the work and the activity up. So what helped me is experiencing the dip that comes from not keeping fresh leads coming in. So I did go through that a couple of times. And when I did, I saw a dip in my sales. I saw myself get nervous, like, what's going on? Oh, I need to place another order. Like, what have I done? It's a simple business, right? But sometimes we can make silly mistakes. That's to me is being consistent in what is creating the sales, creating the business is what's going to do it. I'll say this. This really helped me, while back when I was first trying to figure all this out. In a meeting, Sean had said, if you are running your business and you've stopped buying leads, you stopped getting more resources, your business has already died and you just weren't aware of it yet. Now I'm probably paraphrasing. I'm not quoting it exactly how he said it, but it really hit me like, if you're not regularly investing in your business, bringing new leads, you're still going to call your old leads. But if you're not doing that and keeping that cycle going, your business is dying. It's like you have a flower and you just stopped watering it. It's dying on the inside. You haven't seen the petals fall off yet, but it's about to.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you need to keep these things fresh. You need to be consistent.
I agree. And that's actually a great point. I love the fact that you're always calling it business. This is your individual Robbie Gonzalez independent business. What you do directly affects you. And like you said, if you're not feeding it, and it doesn't have to be razor leads, it could be any leads that are out there. But if you're not feeding it with enough people to speak to, how do you get the growth? How do you get the opportunities? How do you get the pipeline? It's not possible unless you're, on the street trying to, talk to people, which you can
Yeah.
do, but that's limited. And so it's a good lesson for people who are watching, who are thinking, what your numbers sound amazing, but what they're not seeing is, you're just putting in not only the effort in terms of getting the leads consistently, but the dials, the texting, the follow up, going back through your old list and making sure that you've not missed anyone, because that in itself is what drives, but probably an extra, I don't know the numbers, but probably an extra 10 to 20 potentially K in AP APB in every single month, because, like you said, you're not going to get it on the first call. It's rare that happens, right? And it's about making sure that you are just being as aggressive as possible with your business to make sure that it grows and stays consistent as well.
Yeah, and being really good at developing relationships with those individuals. Like we are people, right? We cannot forget that. We're not here just, building a gizmo and sending it out, and shipping it. We're building relationships with people, whether we want to or not. The person on the other line wants to know that they're not talking to an AI bot.
Yes.
They're speaking to a human. And so that also means asking questions that allows you to potentially write some business on their family members or their friends. You get their beneficiaries' names. Why not talk to them? So what I mean is, like, make the most of the resources that you have. Don't just rely on fresh resources and then just continue to pour money into that. But don't do the opposite and try so hard to make so much from your, you know, already existing, lead list, that you don't add fresh leads.
Yeah, I do love that. And that's probably a good segue now into your process. Clearly, there's a structure and a cadence of what you're doing that works really well. Actually, before we go into that, you mainly buy standard, right? You've done
Well,
premium.
only recently. So here's the funny thing. I started off with premium because at that time that was all that my agency was doing and the group that we're a part of. And so they said, don't buy standard, just buy premium. So I was like, okay, that's what we did. And so I only bought premium. So October, November, December, I only bought
And
premium. It was really just in January that I started buying standard. Last week, I bought one more set of premium, and then my most recent order this week was standard. I'm really still trying to test the waters, but here's the truth. January has been pretty much just standard leads, and I hit 35, almost 40K just on the standard leads. Again, I still dial my old leads, so I'm not trying to say that it's all from those fresh conversations, but it was kind of eye-opening. They are a little different. You are going to get people that are a little bit older. You are going to get maybe some health issues, whatever. But I'm still learning like what I prefer. I heard someone in a call recently say, hey, I like to buy standard and just view it like farming.
yes,
Just keep going. And then I sprinkle in premium. To kind of try to help me hit my goals. So I thought, oh, that's not a bad way to look at it. So I might do something like that, but I'm still not sure, right? I'm still trying to get my feel. So at the moment I buy both premium and standard.
yeah. And that's interesting because I think the filters that we have for premium versus standard, etc., that makes a difference in terms of the types of people that you speak to, no doubt, right? But the reality is, the name of the game is getting people on the phone. And if we're able to help you, regardless of what lead type you get as many people on the phone, then that means that you're going to write different types of policies. No doubt, it's going to be more your final expense type, or, the whole life type versus like an IUL or term or whatever. But the reality is you're still getting somebody who is looking for life insurance that needs it and is expressing that they want you to help them as fast as possible, usually. Not all the time, but usually, right? And so good that you've experienced both, because you're very much testament to what I think now. I think all of our lead types do offer a great opportunity to make serious return on investment. It just depends, like you say, are you ready to farm? And ultimately, that's going to be driven by budget initially. But when you have the budget, you can experience all the flavors of what we have to offer and still know that you're going to get a consistent process, which means that hopefully the sales, regardless of what you buy, will still come out, which you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, it really is about building a relationship with people and talking to them, because I personally don't see anything wrong with talking to people that are in their 60s and even 70s. A lot of times they're much more aware of what's available for them. And I love that. So I'm just helping them find something that might be a little more affordable than they thought, or that they can qualify for. Maybe they've already been declined, or something has happened in the past that they felt like, oh, well, I had a heart attack and I can't. And I'm able to help them,
Yeah.
and the policy is probably going to be a little more expensive per month for them, but they came to me aware of that because they've already gone through some of this. So yeah, I mean, you have both. I don't think that I need to speak to only the healthiest people, and I don't feel like I need to speak to there's downsides to speaking to people that are younger, that don't understand the value of insurance. There's downsides to those hidden things, like they're younger and they seem healthier, but then all of a sudden, oh, well, that kind of, throws something. So it's just like I say, a lead is just a human being, and all we're doing is connecting and helping them out. It is good to look at things holistically, like, okay, I know that I can make more money from this set
Yeah.
of and this. So that's where I was trying to figure out, like, is it more efficient for me to work standard leads, or is it more efficient for me to work premium? I'm not sure yet. I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But it is more about consistency regardless. Don't stop buying leads.
Correct. Love that. Love that. And that now, I'll go back to my original question of process, because I wanted to get that in there just because so people actually understood what you were buying and your frequency, because it is important. People see these numbers and, you might think you're buying 30 premium leads a week. Well, I think you buy what, like maybe 15
Yeah,
usually.
10 to 15. Yeah, I'm not as aggressive as some guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And that serves you well. And you're just, like I said, super consistent. So your process, talk to us about your process. There's clearly some source in it because it just has been working consistently since you really started. Even your first few months where you did 8K, 16K, 32K, you clearly had a process that was being refined. And then I guess you settled at one point to something that's working right now. So can you talk a bit more about, the process? Lead comes in, do you dial them? Do you text them? Like what do you do behind the scenes to get them on the phone?
Yeah, it's a good question. Feel that speed to lead is one of the most important. You can't even put a value on how quickly you can get a hold of that lead. Now, there are some caveats, and I'll talk about that in a second. You When the lead drops, when I get that notification, as long as it's not in the middle of the night, I try to get a hold of the lead right away. I dial them twice. This is something I learned from Samuel Fine. Dial them twice from my cell phone. If I don't get a hold of them, then there is an automated text message in our system that goes out. And once I've seen that they've gotten that, I will send them a text message that's more personal for me, shorter, and then I will try to later in the day try to dial them from that number, right? So that now they're getting a call from a different number. My goal there is to just try to make a connection. Not trying to overwhelm them. That's why I do try to space things out. I do try to reach them right away, because if I do get them right after they've filled out the form, the chances of them closing on that first call is very, very high.
So you try and close them on the first call.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's the other piece. Yeah. I don't usually go for setting the appointment, but that's the caveat I was going to say, is that if it's in the morning and they're working, right? If they're at work, there are a lot of times where I'll run into that, where I'm trying to continue the conversation. They're like, "Hey, listen, I'm at work. I really need to," and so we schedule for, a time right after work. Yep. So that's the only caveat, right? Because otherwise, if I have them on the phone and we're talking about the thing that they're interested in, and I'm answering their questions and I'm helping them understand what's a good fit for them, then it's a very easy transition to just say, "Okay, well, it sounds like this is what's going to work for us. Let's go ahead and start well, I don't even say let's go ahead because I've already told them that we're going to fill out the application, and the application is going to allow us to see if they qualify. So I've already said that. So once they've agreed on price, then it's like, okay, and just want to make sure your first name is just 3 letters, right? It's AYO. Yeah, okay, cool. And do you have a middle initial that you like to use? I'm filling out the application.
I love that. Oh, it's such a good way of doing it. You spoke about that a personal text. Like, what do you put in that personal text? Is it based on maybe what their hobby is, or is it just saying sort of thing that you send to
Good.
everyone?
Yeah, I don't re-mention the hobby. I probably should. There are people that do respond and say, "Yeah, yeah, I like reading," because that does come out in the initial text. The automated text does have the hobby in there.
That's nice.
My initial text is more of a, "Hey, this is Robbie. I'm the state appointed insurance advisor. Just wanted to make sure that we could connect today." Like, it's just trying to sound more human
Yeah.
in a world where everything is automated, and they literally just got an automated message. Like, I'm just trying to give a shorter, real message that this is me, just trying to find a time to connect. I usually have and I leave an opening for texting. I'll say, or if you prefer to text, let me know. Again, this is everyone's personal feel on this. I feel like if I'm allowing them an opening to text and we end up texting back and forth, I can still get to that point at the end of that texting conversation where we set the appointment. More
Yeah.
often than not, I can do that
Yeah.
because I'm asking them questions about them. If we've gotten to a certain point, they've revealed enough stuff about themselves, they
Yeah.
don't mind. They don't mind scheduling the appointment. Obviously, there's going to be people that don't, right? They just drop off right when you start mentioning that we're going to have to get on the phone. But more often than not, they'll schedule the appointment. And I'm still going to be calling them. Like, it's if they drop off or if whatever happens and we don't continue the texting conversation, I'm still going to be dialing them later that day or the next day. Like, I don't stop dialing them. It's just, another avenue for them to build a slight bit of relationship with me at a professional level, right? Because now I've got their height and weight, I've got their, all of their prescriptions that they shared with me, whatever, and they're like, okay, well, I should go ahead and
Yeah.
finish what
Yeah.
I started.
I've got this far. Might as well carry on. But I guess, like you said, you're meeting them where they want to be met, right? So yeah, texting is a perfect medium to get the information before you set an appointment later on. So no, I've really enjoyed this call. I think it's great to see not only your consistency, but also your ability to churn out week after week the sales that you need to, hit like nationally recognized levels. And it's just exciting to see where you've got to in such a short period of time. And I'm sure you're going to be even higher next time you speak, probably maybe in a few weeks, going up the ranks, and glad that we could be a part of it as resolution. And I hope to give you many, many more months of 40 plus Ks, even 20. I'm not saying that's not even bad. It's amazing, right? 20 plus Ks to keep establishing your name within the Symmetry organization. Before we leave, is there anything else you want to add or
Yeah, it's a good point. The consistency piece is something that's always mentioned, but I guess the part that isn't mentioned is, or that all of us want us to be successful. All of us want to make these things work. And for me, when it comes to leads, there's two things that I sometimes struggle with, but I know that once I hit these things that they work. And that is, there is no magic behind a specific lead type or whatever, but it is more about consistency and learning those leads, right? You kind of get used to working those leads. And yeah, if the platform, and this comes from a little bit from my background in digital advertising that my previous companies that I've worked for did, like, if you're advertising the right things and you're drawing people in the right way, honestly, then you're not going to get some of the garbage that I've seen people deal with, which is Oh, someone told me that I could get $500,000 for $30 a month, and I'm 64 years old. If Razor Ridge, as an example, if Razor Ridge was advertising that, then we would not be having success because we'd have all kinds of people talking to us, and they'd be, from a sales perspective, I'm already 3 steps back. Like I can't even close a deal, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. The other piece when it comes to consistency is not just in the easy part, which is just spending the money, right? That's hard, but it's easier than the consistency of making the dials, the consistency of believing in the system, the consistency of getting up every day and hitting it hard, even when the numbers aren't showing it, right? I had a week last week that really shocked me, and I dumped down to 3,000 in APV last week. And I don't normally do only 3,000 in a week. And that is, for some people, it's like, oh, well, poor you. It's just, I have to keep a certain momentum myself. Otherwise, I'll lose momentum, right? So
Yeah.
it can affect you emotionally. And so getting back up, talking to people, being around a crowd that's encouraging you so that you can continue to hit 10K weeks or 15K weeks, whatever your goal is, you can do that. And starting earlier rather than later, right? Don't wait till Wednesday and decide, you know what, I really need to kick it into gear, right? Start on Monday.
So true. So true. No, I love that. Great little bits of advice. And I just wanted to piggyback on your point about the advertising, which I guess is, you make a good point. So I think why things work out so well for many agents that would work with our leads is because I'm very deliberate in setting the expectation from the first thing you see from us. So we are very careful with the language, the verbiage we use across all of our ads to ensure that there's no disconnect between what they see in the ad versus what you're going to say as an agent. And that means our leads aren't super cheap in terms of to generate, because we can generate leads for like $5 if we wanted to for ourselves, but we don't, right? The reason why is because I know that those leads that come through, their expectation versus the reality will be totally different, and no one will make sales. We can have a ton of cheap leads that people buy, but no one will make sales, so it's pointless, right? I'd rather focus, I have always said this, focus on people who are educated enough so when you get on the phone, they have a very good idea what they want or what they are looking for. And then it's up to the agent to then close the deal. So I'm glad that you're seeing that. And obviously it's clearly the numbers, but also it sounds like the conversations you're having mirror that as well. And it's good to see because it means that I'm doing my job as best as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. If they were coming in under false pretenses and false advertising, we would be able to notice it right away, because we're not, although we can sell an accidental policy probably for, $30 for 500,000. That's not what we are trying to sell, right? And so that's not the conversation that we want to start off having. And yeah, so that's huge. And I love it when I say, "Hey, this is Robbie Gonzalez," and they're like, "Yeah, I know." It's like they already know who I am. Like they were expecting me to call. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, right? That doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it's like, yeah, this is great. And those usually end up closing a sale or closing a deal because they're, like you said, they're ready. The trust is built there, right? They felt like they went through a system where there was something real there. There's a lot of ads and stuff online that are obviously leading to something that feels fishy,
Yep.
and I don't get that feel, right? When I'm talking to individuals, they sound like they trust me, and we're having a real conversation. They're not sitting there like, "Yeah, but is this a scam?"
Yeah.
We don't want to be a part of that. And it starts with the advertising, right? Because if there was something scammy about the ad, even if they answered it, it would show. It would show in the conversations.
Now, really enjoyed this. Really appreciate you taking time to speak to me and obviously everyone else that's going to watch it. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your journey play out and appreciate being part of it. See you later, everyone.